Hello everybody, and welcome back to the painting of the Starship Enterprise. And yes, I have decided that that's exactly what this is going to be, and if you're watching the first video first, then you already know that by way of the title of the video. So, anyway, let's talk a little bit about what I have done here to prepare for decals, and that is that I've given the thing a nice coat of Tester's gloss coat, just spritzed it over the entire thing to give it a nice glossy coat. The reason we do that is if you don't do that, there's a reasonable chance that your decals are going to trap air underneath the decal, and when you do a clear coat over the top of them, that'll result in sort of a frost-like finish wherever the clear part of the decal is. We want to avoid that. So, with that in mind, that's why we do the gloss coat. It's less likely to trap air. Now, the next thing, let's talk about the decals. These come from Starfighter Decals, which is, I guess, owned by Mark's Models and Toys. And I will include a link in the description. Now, there's really two ways that you can get their decals. One is you can just buy this set, which is what I've done, and it just comes on its own. But they also sell the set of figures, the same set I have, but not from Amarillo Design Bureau. I guess it's their own run of those ships. And they include a set of decals with it, and that set of decals is different from this set. And I think primarily in that it includes fewer of some of the extra bits that this one comes with, but on the other hand, it comes with pre-made hull numbers and ship names, which this does not. So this has no ship names, which is why none of my starships have names on them. Only the NCC as a single piece, and then all of your numbers as separate pieces, which is really kind of a living hell, putting these things together. And right now, since I am doing the Enterprise, I'm going to need two number ones. And I realized from, look at that, look at how tiny that is. From doing these previously, these are all like on one sheet of film, so I do need to cut this in half. Which I have done. And of course, I have left my tweezers someplace. Alright. Okay, here's one. There's another one. And then we need a 7 and we need a 0. So here's a considering the size of these decals, doing this with a knife is your best chance at not screwing up absolutely everything else around it. And again, I'm going to trim this down as close as possible to the number, and that is so that I don't have the film from each of the numbers bouncing into one another as I try to set these in place. And I know that can be a problem because I've done this several times. Alright, and let's grab a 7. Maybe I should try to trim it close from the get-go, huh? That might make it easier. Yeah, and you're going to want a fresh blade for this. Alright, now this is just a piece of styrene, which is probably not the best use for this since this stuff isn't cheap. But I've already put a little dab of water on it, and I'm going to start with just the, you know what, I was going to do just one, but I realize when you're doing these decals, let's not, no, you don't want that flipped over. Get up. When you're doing the decals, it's actually, for the hull numbers, you're going to be sliding them around into place, and so you're not going to be exactly sure where one thing needs to be before you have everything in place. Now, I got a really nice set of instructions here, and so I can look at this and I can say, well, the way they have this set up, there's the center line. The NCC starts 2 lines to the left of that, and the last 0 starts just on the end of 2 lines after that, and you can actually count up those lines here. That actually seems a little strange to me, because then the whole thing isn't centered properly. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the N, I might split it on that line, and then split the final 0 on that line, and that should put us close to center. Alright, so I got those things about ready to go. This is, by the way, I'm about to use some micro set, and using a brush, I'm just going to swab it onto this area here where the decals are going to sit. And the thing is, you want enough so that it's going to coat evenly, but you don't want too much, because then the decals will just swim in it, and that becomes its own issue. Alright, so here's the NCC. We're going to grab that and just drag it right off of there. We'll push that out of the way, and that'll drag some of the liquid with it. See how that's floating? That's just bad. I need another brush here to sop up some of this. I don't want to get rid of all of it, because I do want a little bit of float. So we said, what did we say? The NCC was going to be, so here's the center line where this light is. Let's see if this matches up. One, two. Nope, that's not going to match up. So I think we're just going to end up eyeballing this. So this is 1, 2, 3 lines. And at this point, I'm not sure exactly where. Do I want to put it out here? No, I think I do want it in here. That's probably best. Alright. Let's grab a 1. In fact, let's get all these numbers up here. Let me get those up there first. Sorry, I'm just trying to get that little, I don't know what that was, under the decal. Alright, there's a 7. So the trick here, wow, that's actually looking surprisingly good for just quickly putting them in place. But don't worry, it'll all get shoved around and out of place before long. So again, this is our center line, and I've got 2 full slots here, or 3 full slots, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I think that spacing is going to be pretty good. Well, that doesn't look too bad to me. How does that look on the screen? That looks pretty good there. So now I just want to get rid of some of these bits. Alright, so she's officially the Enterprise. And I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to put on some microsol. So the microset, the idea is to soften it up and just help the decal seat into place in the first place. And then we use the microsol, which really goes a long way towards very much softening them up and getting them to conform very nicely with the surface. And it'll also help you get rid of any, if there's any air trapped underneath. It should help deal with that, assuming it's not much, assuming that it's really maybe just along the edges and it's not, and you're not trying to work on a flat painted surface. So let's let this dry. I'm going to take a look, and maybe we'll even do another location while we're waiting for that to dry. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so while we wait for this to dry, I've decided that we're going to do, and I can't remember what these are supposed to be, but there's 4 little square, little rectangles on each side. And I've got the decals for them. And the interesting thing is that there's actually a bit of surface detail on these struts that correspond with whatever that detail is supposed to be. So that might actually interfere with how the decal sits. But it should be okay, I would think. So with this one, I think I'm just going to pull it off of there. There's nowhere for it to slide around on. Alright, that looks like a good placement right there. Let's see if we can do this facing away this time. Flip it around. That makes more sense. All right. 2 for 2 there. Okay, so now let's go find another detail. By the way, I apologize for yesterday's video. That autofocus was a serious pain in the butt, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I got into editing and realized that it was just constantly trying to focus. So we're using fixed focus this time, so if anything goes out of focus while I'm doing this, well, you can blame me because I picked the focal point, and so this is all me now, and I can't blame this on the camera. But anyway, so there are some lines right about here, these 3 lines, and they don't actually have they're not called out by their proper number. These say decal number 43, which is actually what these are. These are decal number 43. So I think I have the right one. The problem is they're not really the right length. They don't wrap all the way around the nacelle because there's these detail bits right there, so it actually stops there. And when I did the dreadnought, I actually cut the decal in half, and that seemed to work pretty well, but it still in some cases required a little bit of post-application customization. So I'll cut those in half, and we're going to drop them in the water. And then we're going to prep one side with microset. And when doing these, I decided that more was better. Well, I'll get that later. Not done yet. How about this one? Alright, she seems ready. Whoop. There we go. Alright, so the idea here is get it in place, properly centered on that detail piece, and then wrapping around. Dried off the brush a little bit. Alright. Getting rid of some of that excess liquid so that it'll stay. Oh, you know, that's looking really nice. What I had to do on the dreadnought was actually chop off the excess with the X-Acto knife. But in this case, I think what I'm going to end up doing is just letting that go and then touching that up with paint instead. It's a lot less likely to screw it up. So now we can do the other side. Good. Oh, and that one looks perfect. In terms of length. Fantastic. Alright, and then we're going to let that dry as well. Okay, so another thing you can do to make sure the decals set well is while they're drying out, you take I like using a nylon brush for this because it's got some it'll apply a little pressure when you brush over the top. And you don't want to get the bristles underneath the decal. You actually just want to spread it out and get the if there's any remaining air under there, the liquid, as you push down on this, the liquid will push out the air, and as this is a softener on here, it should also help it conform. So that actually looks really good, but I'm still going to apply just a bit on the microsol. And I'm going to let that dry on its own for a bit and let it really soften up the decal, and then I'll go in and do some really very light brush strokes over it, again to help it conform. You don't want to be very heavy, because if you are heavy-handed on this, those decals could move, and then, well, then you're stuck going through the whole placement dance again. And for these in particular, that is such a pain in the butt. This is the easiest time I've ever had on any of these numbers. So this is my 4th ship doing these numbers, and that was as easy as it gets in terms of doing that. And later we'll be doing these tiny, tiny numbers. Won't that be fun? In the meantime, I can go ahead and sort of push out any remaining liquid under these. And like I said, there is some surface detail under there that is likely to interfere with these decals. So in this case, also because these are just giant slab decals, I'm going to apply a goodly amount of microsol to these decals to really let them soften up. And then these I'm just going to brush a little bit for now. These are another ones that can be problematic, because if you shift them at all, it's very easy to see when they're out of alignment. I'm so happy with the fact that my eyeball cut on these decals turned out so well. Alright. So let's take a look at what we're going to do next. Oh, that's too much. So, what I really love seeing on these little things are the window details, like these decals, for example. Once these things go on, it really starts to bring the model to life. All right, there we go. Flip it over. The other one. Fantastic. So it appears as if the stripe detail lines up on that little nubbin. But where where to place it. Back and forth. It goes. Well, I guess it sort of aligns with the. So that aligns there. So that should line up across. Oop. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. And that appears straight. Yeah, and then this this portion of it here should line up, looks like, with the forward portion of the vertical part of the hull. Does that look straight enough? Yeah, I think so. Let's flip it over. Hopefully without the bumping into the camera part. All right, that looks good. So just as an FYI on these line decals here, I was looking closer at the instructions, and it appears as though those lines may actually continue all the way through here, though not on these bits there. So I guess, like, I don't really care personally if that's, you know, an accurate portrayal of the way that's supposed to be, because this is the way you're going to look at the ship 99% of the time, and anybody that flips it over and says, hey, those lines are supposed to go through there, well, you know, sci-fi rivet counter, don't care. But that also means that if you used that full stripe decal, once you got it over all of those ridges, it would probably fit just fine over all that. And then you would need to go through and repaint those little bits however they're supposed to be. I actually think they are the same color as the hull color. And then there is a, the Enterprise actually, I think, has a gray area that is painted down under here, like a dark gray, similar to the gray deck back here on the Nacelle, which I'm not doing. If there was a decal for it, more than happy to put it on there, but yeah, that would be way too anal retentive to try and freehand that in. This is about as anal retentive as I get right there. Okay, so what's next? You know, by the way, what you're not seeing on these videos, or on this video, is all of the time that I'm taking smoothing out each of the decals with a brush, as I showed you earlier. I did show it to you, but I didn't want to do it with each and every decal, as that would take up an inordinate amount of time watching me just brushing over decals. So we are moving on to hull windows, and let's prep this area. And these decals, you know, we're starting to get into ones that are really tough to figure out exactly where they should be, because the instructions are two-dimensional, not three-dimensional. So there are just these little row of windows, and I'm assuming more, yeah, somewhere between where the hull is vertical and where it really slopes in. So somewhere between there is where they look the most correct, and I think they should probably move forward slightly. That looks right. Let's say we use the, oh, that we can't really do that. Okay, I was going to say we could use these as a reference point, but they don't really show them from that perspective. By the way, there are decals for these little phaser banks that are kind of nicer than the raised detail. And in the future, if I was to do another one of these, I would be very tempted to remove these little bumps and replace them with the decals. And then we have the other side here. These have a weird shape to them. It makes it difficult to figure out exactly where they want to be. Perhaps like that. That doesn't look bad. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at my Scout and my Destroyer, and that looks about how I did them there too. So, good on me. Alright, what is next? You know, as the decals get tinier and tinier is when I really start to enjoy them, or enjoy their effect on the model, because the detail that they add really just creates life in the model that otherwise wouldn't be there. Oh, that looks pretty good. I don't know, I always have a hard time with this one too. Getting it right exactly straight and lined up with the other one. Oh, hey. Look at that. It just sort of fell into place. Oh, I love it when that happens. And I'm going to just let that one sit and settle in on its own for now because I don't want to mess with it. It's perfect-ish. Yeah, perfect enough. Alright, what's next? Alright, next up we got a little more striping here. Oh, you know what? That's not ready yet. There we go. I haven't... Oh, I did do that on the Dreadnought. There's less space to work with on the Constitution class. On the other hand, that makes it a little easier to get into place. Sort of. Kind of. Not really. Okay, that one also needs to it actually seems slightly too long. Just slightly. But I think it's good. We're going to let that sit. Let's find another bit of detail we can do. Okay, oh, yeah, I keep forgetting that I need to prep. Swab the area, as it were. So this stripe will eventually also get those tiny little numbers that I'm not looking forward to doing. where does this need to be? This needs to be, well, I guess positioning wide is not too bad. Get rid of some of this excess moisture. Go away. Damn it. I don't know. What do you think? It seems kind of straight. Maybe slightly too high on the, yeah, no, it's definitely too low in the back. Okay. And we're kind of back to where I was. Right there. That looks good. I think it's good in terms of front to back positioning. By the way, when you do this, you can see that the nacelles aren't exactly straight, which just vexes me. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm not going to lay it down because I'm afraid I'm going to screw up the other one. Oh, I'm going to have to lay it down. Get back on there. There we go. Where did that go? That looks about right. Yeah. Flip it over. Look at it that way. Ooh, that one's higher than this one. Which way do I want it? I think I want it the higher way. Maybe, how do I tell? Oh, no, it should be lower, I think. This is one of those things that the instruction sheet can't really tell you. Sort of an eyeball thing, and this one seems like it must be slightly higher. And not crooked. There we go. So the back portion, oh, this one seems like it should be farther forward. Yeah, this one wants to be higher. Alright, I think that looks good now. Excellent. So with the with that stripe decal dry, I figure it's time to go in and do those side hole numbers, which I guarantee you are the smallest decals I've ever worked with. And I have worked with some tiny decals. I used to make decals for miniatures using an Alps printer back in the day. And I used to do a lot of crazy stuff with them for my own use. And these may be the smallest ones I've ever worked with. Oh, this is annoying. Got to get that bead of water off of there. So again, I've cut these as close to the art as possible because I don't want the clear decal film getting in the way. Doesn't want to rotate. Okay. There we go. Now to find the 7. Doesn't want to come off. Get out of there. There we go. Alright. And 0. And this one doesn't want to get on there. I feel like I'm doing surgery. And the other one. Now obviously these are not in final placement yet. I'm just trying to get them close, because one of the things you got to get is the spacing. You kind of need them all on there in order to do that. How do you get back on there? Alright. Now that I have it on there, I'm going to start moving them around. I'm not breathing. No, don't climb on top. Alright, in order to get this any better, I'm going to need to pick it up and bring it close to my face, which means it's not going to be in front of the camera, so I will be right back. So yeah, not perfect, but I doubt anybody could get that to be perfect. It was, that was something. The first one, the one that I did mostly on camera, actually was much easier overall than the second one, where I ended up dropping the model in the middle of it. And don't even ask me how, but like my 0 ended up underneath another decal on the underside of the hull. It was craziness. Yeah, so, but they're done. And I think they don't look half bad. So that's kind of nice. So I'm going to take a little break here and then come back and see what's next on the agenda. Okay, I got this little I'm not even sure what these are supposed to be. These are little gold decals that go right across the front here. Now the interesting thing is, on every other one of these ships that I've built, there was actually detail pre-existing on the model in this spot, and this one didn't have it, which is odd. Okay, and that's done. So I did some of the underside decals. I don't know what these are, but they're on all the ships. Some windows, some other little details. And then when everything was dry, I gave the whole thing a coat of matte to really kind of seal everything in and make it look finished and painted on. And I think that worked. But that's going to do it. That's the end of this project. And so now I've got this cool little fleet of ships. Anyway. And there's only one left to go from this whole set, and that is this tug, which I will do at some point. And that's it for now. And thanks for watching. Remember, if you liked this video, please like this video. And if you don't want to miss my future videos, be sure to subscribe. And thanks for watching today. And I'll talk to you later.